I'm Scott. I'm going to teach you how to make the best pasta you've ever had from scratch. The ingredients come and go, but the technique always stays the same. We have made this pasta that I'm making for you. It is the biggest seller, the biggest hit. What you put into this is what you get out of it. So we're going to start with spaghetti. Now, traditionally when I make the spaghetti, this is technically a tonnarelli. Tonnarelli has straight sides. Spaghetti is rounded sides. That's the only real differential. But it's going to be about 12 inches in length. We're going to make this from scratch right now. I'm going to do 9 egg yolks and 1 whole egg. So I'm going to add the 1 whole egg right here to the bowl. And then I'm going to take these yolks out as I go. 00 flour is the grind of the flour. A lot of people think that it has a higher wheat content or has a higher protein content. 00 is strictly the grind. So the finer it is, the better the texture and the mouthfeel of the pasta itself. And that's really important when it comes to making your own pasta, because you want the best mouthfeel possible. You want the best texture that there is. Listen, when you're talking about simplicity and you're talking about something as simple and straightforward as pasta, what you put into this is what you get out of it. So if you put not great ingredients, you get not great pasta. Simple as that. So quality of ingredients is really the key. So this will be our 9th yolk. Beautiful. So I'm going to add about, a tablespoon or so of salt directly to those eggs. I have 3 1/4 cups of flour, 00 flour, that we're going to add directly to this. I'm going to let this go really slowly. Right, and I'm going to start adding this flour directly to it. There's a few different types of dough stylistically, and this is more of a bolognese style dough. We could also later get into like Piedmont style doughs or Southern style doughs. And when you're making certain things with hot water as opposed to eggs, more Southern style pastas, that's what they do. Like orecchiette, cavatelli, things of that nature. And then I got 1/3 cup of semolina. So I got 3 cups and 1/4 of 00 flour, and then I have 1/3 cup semolina. I'm gonna start to mix this, and then I'm gonna add the water really slowly. Here we go. Add about 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil to this. Just let it go in slowly. And that's mixing. What I'm gonna do is add a little bit of water to this, and just enough water so that it really starts to become that perfect dough. It got about 1/3 cup of water here, and you can see how this is really starting to come together. My goal is to get it so it becomes one nice, beautiful ball, and a little bit more. And if it needs more than 1/3 cup, by all means. The goal is the final product, which we'll talk about and I'll show you. But some of these measurements, they come and go. The flour is not always what you expect it to be when you measure it out. There's a humidity, there's moisture content inside these things, so it always fluctuates a little bit. I'm gonna let it go a little bit longer. The more it mixes, the more those gluten strands really start to open up. It allows the moisture to come in, that water content to really permeate every granule of that 00 flour. And once this is finished mixing, it all comes together in one bowl. I'll knead it for a little while, and then I'll wrap it in plastic, and I'll leave it at room temperature for at least an hour so it really rests. Once it rests for a while, then it's easier to manipulate and roll out. We have this machine we're gonna roll it all out with. I'm gonna show you just like we do it in restaurants. Bigger batch, of course, but for me, that technique is really the key. Once you understand the technique, you can make anything. But the technique, that's the most important thing that we focus on. The ingredients come and go, but the technique always stays the same. I don't want to mix it much more than that because it's going to mix a lot later on once we start to roll it out. So you can see how this is. Let me put it on the table and we'll knead it a little bit. See that? There's not a lot of residual flour there. I'm gonna let that soak so that it's easier to clean later. And I could feel that, there's not a lot of semolina in this, but I could feel the texture of that semolina and how different it is from the 00 flour itself. If I were making like a spaghetti chitarra on that guitar-like strands, we roll that out. When I'm rolling it, I will use semolina flour as opposed to flour, just straight 00 flour. That way it really gets inside that. And you want that semolina inside there because it creates that beautiful texture on the palate later. This is great. I'm gonna wrap this in some plastic and we will let it rest. A couple tips, I have this pasta dough wrapped up This is a semolina dough, so 00 and semolina. I wrap it in plastic. I'm gonna keep it for a couple days, 3 or 4 days. What I'll do is put it in a black bag so that it sees no light. The light will make this pasta oxidize, and you don't want little black streaks inside your pasta when you're cooking it or when you're cutting it. All right, so this is what we're gonna do. I have this electric pasta machine here to roll this out. By all means, you do not need an expensive machine like this. You could use a hand crank machine. You could even use just a rolling pin to roll it out very thin and then hand cut it. I like to use this machine. It's something that I came up using. I've used it for years and years. I don't even know how many of these I've bought over the years. Probably like 3 or 4 dozen of these. In every restaurant that I've ever had, we've gone through 2 or 3 of these at a time because we have made this pasta that I'm making for you, this spaghetti pomodoro, in so many of my restaurants over the years. It is the biggest seller, the biggest hit, probably the most signature dish of mine that people associate me with directly. Pasta al pomodoro, spaghetti pomodoro, just a simple spaghetti with a little tomato and basil. Like really that simple, but it takes a lot to get to simple, I always say. And I think it's really important as we start doing this, I'm gonna talk about that simplicity and the importance of that simplicity the entire time that we do this. So I think one of the reasons why this is the best pasta that people have ever had is the sum of all its parts. It's really simple to make, but it's fully extracted. Every single ingredient inside of it is singular, but harmonious at the same time. And I think those are really important points when you're talking about a great dish. The pasta itself, semolina 00 flour, really nice texture to it. I'm gonna roll this out, I'm gonna show you how it's cut, but the way it's tossed with the sauce, the way it's cooked inside of it, all, as I said, that extraction of flavor, fresh basil, a little bit of butter, Parmesan cheese, all fresh tomatoes. Those tomatoes are cooked for only about 45 minutes. This is a dish that seems really simple and easy, but it really does take a lot to get to simple. All right, so let's do this. I got the plastic wrapped. I'm gonna take this off. You can see the texture of this dough. It's nice and soft. It's gonna be very supple once we start rolling it out. It's rested, it's room temperature at this point. I'm gonna cut off a piece of this. And I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this step by step with you, and then we'll start to go a little quicker as we go. A little bit of semolina directly on the pasta itself so it doesn't stick as it goes through this machine. I have this machine on 10 right now, so it is the thickest setting. I just wanna flatten it out more so that we can get it through this grate. All right. And as that goes, this is also part of the process of making this gluten work a little bit more for us. So I'm gonna fold it, I'm gonna roll it out, I'm gonna fold it. I'm gonna keep doing this a few times until I can really feel the perfect texture. There we go, there we go. Keep doing this so it's nice and flat, it gets thinner, it's working that gluten, it's becoming, we'll feel it and I'll talk about it. Right now it's still a little rough, I could tell it's a little rough, but what I wanna do is make it so that it has a little more structure to it. There we go. And if you see the texture of this pasta, we look at what this is currently, and then on the end, you're gonna see how smooth it becomes. I think it's important to show what it is right now and what it will become later on. So I'm gonna add a little bit of flour to it because it's slightly wet, but we want a little bit of moisture inside the dough itself. I'm gonna thin it out a little bit, and then when I fold it over again, it'll be easier to get through these grates. Right? So I'll just roll it out like this so it gets nice and thin to get through the grates themselves. And I wish you could feel what I'm talking about here, but it feels more supple, it feels tighter. I'm gonna add a little more semolina, a little bit more flour here. I'm gonna put it back to 10 and roll it out one more time. I think we're really getting to exactly where I want it to be, so. See that? And you see what I mean by the suppleness of that dough compared to what it was before. This is really coming together nicely. And I'm adjusting this and making it thinner as I go so that I could fold it again, or I don't have to. I don't think I'm gonna have to fold this one more time, but I'm gonna keep rolling this out. Inevitably, what happens with a dough like this is, as it sits, you could see it moving. It's starting to, that's why we're doing this. We wanna warm that dough up. We want those gluten strands to really like not get so tense. We want them to be relaxed. Think of that gluten like a muscle. If you were to punch me, I would tense up. But if slowly you massage that warmth and that heat into my muscle, it's gonna relax. It's gonna feel really soft and tender. And that's what the pasta is the same. So right now we're going to 5s. And when we cut this, it'll be at like a 3. So we're really getting close to where that thickness that we want it to be. And that's about 1 portion right here, give or take. Again, you see how nice and soft and supple that is. It feels like a completely different product than when we first started with this one. You see the texture of that, and you see the texture of this. This is so much more, there's an elegance to it, like a nice, soft, supple quality to it. A lot of people, when they roll out pasta, they use a lot of flour. When you have a properly made pasta, the way we made this dough earlier, don't need a lot of flour. Clearly, there's not a lot of flour that we're utilizing here on what we call bench flour. We get that texture right, it's gonna work for us throughout. See that? That's great. I'm gonna put this on 3 right now. I'm gonna roll it a few times on number 3. This is exactly what we want. That's great. I'm gonna put a little bit of 00 flour in here. That just kind of fills in the blanks, so to speak. Just rub it in nicely. Look at that. It's a thing of beauty. Now, when it starts to get really long, this is what I do. I fold it like this, I fold it over. That way I don't have to use my fingers, I don't poke any holes in it, there's no windows, so to speak, right? We don't want any windows in our doughs. And then it just unfolds directly in my hand, just like that. All right, good. What I'm gonna do is cut this in half, and then we're gonna let it just sit for a minute or 2. I'm gonna put this attachment, this is the tonnarelli attachment, as opposed to a spaghetti. So if I didn't have this machine, what I would do is cut this by hand easily. I like to square off the edges. And this pasta, these scraps, you could always use if you have a lot of them, if you're making a lot of pasta. It's always good in pasta fagioli. Never waste anything. You could bunch them all up together and start to roll it out again, or this is what we call maltagliati, poorly cut pasta. You could just have pieces like this, and you can toss it with a little bit of butter, a little bit of pasta water, and maybe sage or Parmesan cheese or something like that. Like, utilize your scraps as well. I think that's a really important aspect of things. If you're not making a ton of pasta, you know, it's always good to have things like this laying around. So if you want to freeze it, also freeze it in pieces. Don't wrap it up, just freeze it in pieces and then add to it as you go in a little container. Eventually you wind up with a lot of stuff, make a little pasta fagioli or something like that. All right, so I have about 2 12-inch pieces here. This is 12 inches, the knife. So about 2 12-inch pieces. If I want to hand cut this spaghetti, what I would do is add a little bit of flour and semolina here, and then roll it just like this. And then hand cut it, whatever thickness you desire. You can make a tagliatelle about like that thick. Pappardelle is about that thick. A tagliarine, let me show you. That's really thin like this. Tagliarine is a Piedmontese specialty that's made with a dough that's only egg yolks and flour, so it has a very different texture to it. There's no semolina as well. There's a lot of things you could do when you're hand cutting pasta. In this case, we're just gonna run it through this pasta machine itself. So what I do, a little bit more semolina, a little bit more 00 flour. You know, give or take, this is about 1 portion right here, right in front of us. So here we go. As soon as that comes out of the machine, once it's cut, I add semolina and 00 flour to it, kind of shake it around, make sure that it's nice and coated. And if it has too much moisture content in it, if you don't work it the way I did, what'll happen is you cut it, it becomes too moist, and when you freeze it, or if you just put it in your refrigerator, it'll stick together. So you don't want to do that. Beautiful. A little bit of semolina, a little bit of 00 flour, and this like a little bird's nest. We just want to fold it over nicely. And that is your spaghetti. In this case, technically, as I said, a tonnarelli. What I do with this, I freeze it. I know it's fresh pasta, but I freeze it because it is the best way to hold this pasta without it sticking together. The moisture content inside a refrigerator clearly is going to start to make it too humid and it'll stick together. But we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that the integrity of the pasta is in place. All the effort and the work that we put into making this, we want to make sure that it's as perfect as possible. So then what we do is we go directly in the freezer. It's frozen and you can keep it there for a month. It's fine. I like to get ahead of this stuff, have some in the freezer. So on a crazy busy night, I don't have a lot of time. I can grab one out of the freezer and just, even a spaghetti aglio, spaghetti, a simple sauce, just spaghetti, butter, Parmesan cheese, something just so I have it and I can make it really quickly. So that's how you make the best pasta that you've ever had by hand. You want to learn how to cook it? Watch this next video.